Well, howdy folks, it's your friendly neighborhood watchman here with another video. Well, sorta, kinda. This video is another updated one. I tried numerous times to trim this video because it's one of 4 I had made back in 2018, the summer of 2018. I made 2 in June, 1 in July, 1 in August. As I mentioned in my first updated video, Diversity and Downfall. So I wanted to trim the beginning, and it just because it's from 4 years ago or what, but it just doesn't want to, editing doesn't want to work on YouTube, and it screws up my video. So I had to download it. Thankfully, I was able to download it from YouTube and tweak it a bit. So I uploaded this video originally in June 29th, 2018, a day after author Harlan Ellison passed away at the age of 84. And although we were on opposite sides of the political spectrum, I paid tribute to him. Even though he was short, he was a tough guy who didn't take any crap, always pushing for authors' rights, especially his, as it should be. The only person who will always be looking out for you and sticking up for you is you. So anyway, this is a brief little homage. So the original video is here really in its entirety, except for the opening scenes I replaced with the ones I currently use. And at the end, when I added hit the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. Other than that, I left it all as it was. It sucks having to update it though, because it was my most viewed video. Well folks, without further ado, here is my video on the late great Harlan Ellison. May he rest in peace. Well, hello kiddies. You sneak him up on me like that. Well, I'm gonna pay my respects to the irascible Harlan Ellison. Mr. Ellison passed away Wednesday, at the age of 84. I was very sorry to hear about that. But Mr. Ellison had a distinguished career, and he lived to see 84. Not many people do, including a few relatives of mine. Harlan was, he reminded me a little of Rod Serling, not in temperament, personality, but in the fact that I got to know them mostly through teleplays, their scripts, and some film, and of course his iconic The Twilight Zone series. Serling also wrote, I believe, the first draft of The Planet of the Apes. I know he was involved in it anyway. Well, Harlan, I grew up a Star Trek fan, watching the reruns as a kid. So of course one of my favorite episodes is City on the Edge of Forever, which many people consider the best of the Star Trek original series episodes, myself included. And even as a kid, you're too young to know or care about who wrote what and who directed what, etc., etc. You're a kid, man. You're just stuffing your face with popcorn and getting lost into all the action. And the more aliens, the better. I do remember, however, the last scene when Captain Kirk, William Shatner, calls up to the Enterprise. And, of course, he's torn up and he's like, beam us the hell out of here. The first time, the only time Kirk, the character, ever swore on TV. Yes, back then in the late 60s, hell is a curse word. You didn't hear too often. That always stayed with me. I do remember reading Harlan's script on the City on the Edge of Forever, or maybe the novella. He fleshed it out. He went back to it, and I don't remember too much detail other than I know he wanted aliens to be included in the episode. The aliens that built the Watcher. But of course, back then, they just couldn't do it. And even if they tried, the aliens would have looked pretty bad, I'm sure. It would look something like the old Lost in Space. Old Lost in Space. It's fine when you're a little kid, but yeah. I understand why Gene Roddenberry did it the way he did. I know Harlan wouldn't like to hear that. He would have a few choice words for me, I'm sure. I'm a big Dave Stevens fan. He's my favorite artist. Unfortunately, he died much too soon. I remember collecting his first collection, Rocketeer collection. And Harlan had, I think he wrote introductory, a forward. I no longer have that book. That was years ago. Lost it was moving. And Harlan was talking about how he was surprised at how young Dave was. He came across as having lived through the 30s and 40s and 50s, the years that he had written about the Rocketeer, his characters, and of course he knew about Billy. That's how I was first introduced to Betty Page, through Dave Stevens. Dave Stevens helped to revive interest in Betty Page during the 80s, which was fortunate for her, for them both. And of course we the fans benefited from that collaboration. He got to meet and become quite close friends with Betty during their last years. He died before she did, but she died not too long after. And she had no idea that her image was being used and she could profit from it, which she had every right to. Old Harlan was a comic book fan. He did not demean the art form. He actually, I saw a documentary, it's only about an hour long, made by Sci-Fi back in the day, and in it, Harlan is seen to pull out some Wiz comics from a rather large collection of his from his bookshelf, featuring the original Captain Marvel. I do believe you can see that documentary on YouTube if you're interested. Captain Marvel was actually my favorite superhero, outside of any characters from Marvel Comics. I'm talking about the old Marvel Comics, Silver Age. It's the Silver Age comics, Bronze comics, 80s, even early 90s. Not the travesty we have masquerading as Marvel Comics nowadays. But I digress again, because that's a whole nother situation, a whole nother topic, and I'm not getting into that right now. Harlan also wrote some well-known TV scripts for The Outer Limits, one of my favorite shows as a kid. I discovered this in New York when they started airing it, and I was like, what is this? How could I not have seen this before? I was about 10, 11, 12 about 10 or 11 when they started airing that. Maybe 12. And I couldn't believe it. I was familiar with Twilight Zone, but not The Outer Limits. And I took to it like a fish to water. Of course, Harlan had written The Demon with a Glass Hand, and he written The Soldier, which he claimed was the basis for the Terminator, and much to James Cameron's chagrin. But Harlan was also a consultant on J. Michael Straczynski's Babylon 5, also another one of my favorite sci-fi shows. Well, all in all, Harlan had an eventful life, and any death diminishes me. Hopefully he's He's experiencing new adventures as we go on with our lives down here on Earth. Well, folks, it looks like we reached the end of our journey here today. Just sharing some thoughts and opinions on Harlan and related topics. Hoping it bore you to tears. Until next time, folks, this is Watchman saying, over and out. Take care of yourself.
And books. Books are being read, but, you know, they're paying 6 figures to Faye Resnick to talk about her relationship to Nicole Simpson. And it brings a writer to wonder, is there really any future? Is there any point to it? I don't know the answer. All I can do is give you anecdotes. I'll give you a real interesting anecdote. I got a publisher who's bringing out 31 of my books next year, early next year. And I'm having dinner with them in Chicago. I was at the American Bookseller Association convention. And we went out to have dinner. And in the middle of the dinner, I'm talking about a cover idea that I had for my comic book, Harlan Ellison's Dream Corridor. And I said, this great idea. You got a guy who's climbing Mount Everest, or, you know, climbing back towards Shangri-La. And the wind is whipping the snow in a curtain off to the left. And it's like Ronald Colman climbing back to Shangri-La. And as he looks toward the summit, he sees McDonald's arches. Now, I thought that was very funny. And in fact, here's a Xerox of the cover that Kent Bash actually did. But I suddenly realized as I was talking to them, they were looking at me as if I'd fallen off the moon. I said, Ronald Colman, you know, Lost Horizon, the movie, black and white movie, hello, Ellison to Earth. They didn't know. They didn't know anything about Lost Horizon. They didn't know Ronald Colman. They didn't know Shangri-La. It's impossible, almost impossible, to write anything that an audience today knows anything about if the audience is under 20. They just don't give a damn. They don't know and they don't care. And it turns into a kind of situation where even the most famous stuff becomes no price. Let me show you something really ugly. Publishers Weekly. This is the journal of the book publishing world. Comes out every week. This one is June 5th. See that cover? It says, Lassie Come Home. Lassie Come Home, the book, Lassie Come Home. And underneath it are these 2 names, Rosemary Wells and Susan Jeffers. And I look at this and I say, the hell is that? The book was written by Eric Knight, who wrote The Flying Yorkshireman. Eric Knight, very famous. This is one of the most famous books in the world, written in 1938, something like that, 1938. Well, what they've done is they're not reprinting Lassie Come Home. They're doing a picture book. A picture book. They took Eric Knight's work and they have to boil it down and make it idiot for a new audience. Clarence Buddington Kellen, for all his fame, is gone. As if he had never existed. Flins from the mind of the reading public. They don't even remember Chaucer. We're lucky if they remember Mark Twain. If Clarence Buddington Kellen couldn't make it, how the hell am I going to make it?